Thank you, Daniel. Much appreciated. Love having you here at Teamnight.
Woo!
Woohoo! Okay. Quickly, before we introduce our guest tonight, I'm going to ask Ansha and Prince to jump up online. Hey, Ansha. Hey, Prince.
Hi, Mandy. How are you?
Hey,
Very
man.
good. How are you? Are you guys good?
We are awesome. We are ready for tonight.
Ready for tonight. So if you don't know Ansha is our creative design oversight for Africa, and Prince is on her team. He is one of the most incredible artists I've ever come to meet. I have seen his work. The first time I saw his work, I thought it was a photograph, and when I looked closer, it wasn't a photograph. It was actually hand drawn, like with pencil, and I was blown away. I couldn't stop talking about it. I was like, oh, who is this guy, and how did he get so good? And he literally didn't study any of what he does. He literally just got into it, but he is brilliant in every way. And I asked him to be here tonight because the guest that we're going to be speaking to is equally as creative. You are going to be inspired by his story tonight. Can I just ask you to lean in? Like, this guy's story is one of those stories that will stay with you forever. You will think about it, you will ponder it. And when you're, I've had moments where I've thought about my creativity, and I've actually been reminded about our guest's story. And he doesn't know this because he's met me once in Australia. Can I just tell you, he is not only generous with his creativity, he is generous, I know, with finance. I know that he has been the facilitator behind people getting to WCC. And he probably wouldn't want me to say this, but he is so super generous, not only with his creativity, but with his finances as well. He, magnifies what generosity is in God's house. And I am so honored to introduce to you tonight Stefan Kunz. I'm not sure where in the world he's living at the moment because he's always traveling around the globe. So we're going to hear from him a little bit, but you're going to be inspired by his story tonight. So Stefan Kunz, welcome to Teamnight in Africa. We love you and we're so happy that you're here with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Hey guys, welcome. Guys, I'm excited to be here, and I'm from Switzerland right now. Like, I'm streaming live from Switzerland.
Incredible. And what is the temperature like there at the moment? Just give us some update.
So right now it's pouring down outside. We had a couple of amazing days, but it's pouring out right now, and it's still warm enough for me to be in my t-shirt. And at night it's still too warm to sleep, so it's good.
Okay, crazy. Okay, let's just get into your story just very quickly. Maybe you could just tell us a bit about what your background is. We know that you are an artist, a profound artist, and you got into typography, and it's, I think you can speak a bit about how you've become so prolific around the world. You probably don't want to talk about it, but we want to hear about it. So we're going to ask you we're going to draw it out of you tonight. But maybe talk about your background, your story, your testimony. Go for gold.
All right. Well, it all really, like, if I take it to the first step that I can take it to, it's 2012, late year. And I was looking over my Instagram account, and I was just seeing, like, the regular posts I was doing was like foods, sunsets, and friends. And I just didn't see anything beautiful in it. And so I didn't see the point of doing it. And I asked myself, like, either I'm going to do it right or I'm not going to do it at all. And that night I remember, like, all right, I'm going to do it and I'm going to pursue it. And so I kind of like reset my whole Instagram feed, kind of like deleted all posts that didn't have to do anything there. And I started one thing. It's like, it's such a small steps that, like, I had to trace it back for the works that I teach and for the talks that I do. But the one thing, the first post that I did was like I just took the Lego reindeer that was sitting on top of the screens, like mini Legos that you can buy as a souvenir. And like, I took a picture and I posted a text on top of it with an iPhone app that just like slammed it on without any interaction. Like, I didn't choose the font, that was already chosen for me, and I just used that and wrote reindeer on top of a Lego reindeer, and thought it was so cool that I posted that with like, hey, feeling like a kid, and like the caption was because reindeers are cool. And so that's how cool I was back then. A lot has changed since. And I realized that I wasn't really cool at all, but that's okay. And the good thing is, like, that was such a small step, but I kind of started like to get on a journey of like always small improvements and getting better and better. But the craziest thing was that at that time I was working at a bank, like I was working for a bank, so in finance. And the reason why I was working in finance was that actually before I wanted to pursue the art direction, like I wanted to become an artist, and especially a graphic designer, like my brother. And somehow in that arts school that I was in, our professor gave us an exercise to like really draw whatever we wanted. Like we could do whatever we wanted. We had a whole week time, which was unusual because we usually had like an afternoon or a morning. And so I kind of wanted to make something massive and big. And unfortunately, every single night I came home and just like totally overthinking the whole process. And like every day I just was stuck in thinking. And at the end of that week, I handed in pretty much nothing. Like I don't even remember what I was doing, but I remember that one thing that's kind of like stuck with me was that I didn't have what it takes to be an artist. Because if to be an artist takes to actually go out and to come up with your own ideas, to be self sufficient and creating like your own stuff, like then I do not have that. And so that's where I kind of like stopped and went into banking. If I cannot pursue art, then I at least will pursue money. And so that was an interesting part. But after 3.5 years of banking, I realized like that wasn't what I was really good at too. And I couldn't do it for more than 5 years beyond those 3.5 years. And so I totally, I quit that day, and I felt like that God just said like, hey, this is an in-between chapter. And at that time I was more into photography. I was even thinking of opening a cafe because I was really into coffee and latte art. So also something that has to do with art. But somehow the one thing that I kept on doing like on a regular basis was kind of like drawing. And like, it wasn't that I had like these major improvements or that I was like just gifted at it from the start, but I was like just doing it on and on. And I love to kind of like use the analogy of like your best friend that you're hanging out with, and you like do not have any feelings for her, but you're just like, hey, this is awesome, we have a great friendship and we like to hang out, but that's like nothing beyond that point. And that was for me like really lettering. I felt like this is amazing, that's cool, I love doing it, but I do not want to do that as a full-time job or to take off more of my time. And then at some point, like 2017, I remember the early beginning of 2017, somehow it clicked and I just realized, you know what, I should give that a chance and I should actually try it. And so I decided back then to really commit to it and then follow that path. And 3-4 years into it now, and I can just see like how God has been blessing me on a crazy scale. And just to go back to what you said, with the being able to be generous, being able to buy some people, some creative team leaders from the world, from Hillsong, to let them go on or come to worship conference was just because I got to be generous with my money and give as much as I can. And like God has challenged me always to really pour it out. And so yeah, God's been good and I've been able to return that. And yeah, it's been a crazy journey so far.
Honestly, like, you are so inspiring. I want us to back up because I feel like Stefan kind of races through his life journey very quickly, and it's in a matter of like a few minutes, but I don't think we actually I just want to really get into the depths of, you were studying art your first year, your first assignment, studying art, first assignment. Okay, I just want to get that clear. First assignment, you get given an opportunity to do anything you want. And that space, that no borders, no confines, the blank slate, blank canvas for you to dream up anything. You have one bad experience. Let's talk about that, because sometimes as creatives, we can have that one bad experience and we can go, well, we can allow it to make a decision for us, correct that one bad experience. Creativity was on your life. It's a gift that God has given you. We saw you go into banking, but then we saw God loop you right back back into art, right? So it's a mandate and mantle upon your life for sure, because even though you had a journey, a kind of it's not a detour, it was all in the plan, I get it, but that different kind of season before you came back to the thing that you're called to. Let's just unpack that for a second, because I feel like a lot of creatives, they hit, you can hit a bad season, you can hit a bad, intersection, and you can make a decision. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so it's of course it's not been just one single decision. Like I tried to pursue graphic design afterwards. Like I tried to get a apprenticeship, and I was even, out of 100 applicants, I was the second to last, like to just leave out. Like I was in the final two to run for that place. And the guy who chose, he said, like, you both are equally as good. Like there's nothing that would separate you guys. So I just went with a gut decision and I picked the other one. And I was like, well, great. Like that was the one place that I wanted to work for. And the rest, like I probably could have found something else, but as you can see, like there were 100 applicants trying to get one position. And so there was a big dog-eat-dog competition right there. But for me, I felt like, all right, I can try out different ideas. And I wanted to see if I could find another apprenticeship as a graphic designer, but it just felt like this is not the right way to pursue it. And my backup plan already before I went into art school, so the art year that I was doing was pretty much like a pre-class before you study anything. And I had like several experiences. Like I just didn't feel like I wasn't the artist. I wasn't the type of person who was just like goes with their feelings. Like I'm not that in touch with my feelings, or not that like involved with my feelings, that like I just want to express what I feel, but like I didn't know exactly what I was or what I wanted to do back then. And so that was really hard for me. And so kind of like all these different things that were happening. And that's kind of like one defining moment that I could say like that I can lead back to, like this one week where I feel like this really hit a nerve. And that was kind of like in the middle of the year, like after we already been through a couple of things. And so even now, like right now, I'm trying to build up a YouTube platform. Like I've been feeling on my heart, like, you know what, I like for 3 years in consecutive years. And like I started in 2017, I tried to really start YouTube, and well, actually 2018, 2019, tried it again. And then 2020, this year. And I said like, all right, 3 times, this is the last chance that I'm getting, or that I feel like I'm getting. Like if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And so really, I said like, all right, I'm going to actually step away from Instagram, not put that as a priority. And that's kind of like my main platform, and to focus on YouTube. And right now, like that already put so much pressure on the decision, but now I'm not feeling that YouTube is actually growing and getting stronger, or like not growing as fast as I wish I was. And so it just feels like you're in the season where like nothing is working, but you're actually sowing so much in that time. And that's what I'm seeing. Again, same thing in banking. Like it felt probably like a detour for my artistic career, but I saw it as an opportunity as well to just learn as much as I possibly can. And kind of like, how do you work with like in a big office? Like I worked in an office where there were like 120 or 200 people in the same floor that you can all see across everyone. And so as an artist, you never get to see that. Like now I'm I've got my own company. I have 2 employees. And so it's a whole different dynamic that I can still like get to use the knowledge I gained from that I can always look back and see like, oh, that's how they grew this side, and this is how they did the business on that side. And so all that knowledge is really helpful for what I do.
That's amazing. I think just earlier we were speaking, before we went live, we were talking, and you mentioned something that I thought was awesome. You said, whether I was at art school or whether I was in banking, I still gave it everything. I still worked really hard, and I gave it everything I got. And you didn't see banking as like, just a little gap year or something that you're doing that's not, you don't feel is your calling yet. You worked hard in that season. And so, sometimes we're waiting for the ship to come in, or, that saying, we're waiting for our, destiny to unfold. But we don't give everything we've got to the season that we're in now, because we think it's like the in-between season. So maybe talk about, talk about giving all you've got in every season. Maybe just talk through that a bit.
Yeah, I love that. It's something that's definitely true, that we kind of feel like, oh, you know what, it's not the main season. Like I even like when I felt that God said like, hey, this is going to be an in-between chapter, like after quitting the bank, like I was so unsure of what I should do, and like you're trying to do something, and for me as a person, it's really hard to really to try to not focus on not knowing where it's supposed to go. Like when it comes to church, like I probably pack in more vision. Like I know kind of like, oh, you know what, like for our church, we should be doing this. And like I led a creative team for 4 years. I built up a creative team at our church. And one of the things that was like impactful was that I knew exactly where I wanted to steer the ship. But if you're in a ship and you just like feel like you're not going anywhere, and my camera is turning off every 30 minutes, that's totally normal. You guys should still hear me. There we go. So I'm working with the materials that I got. I'm using my DSLR camera, which shuts off every 30 minutes. But no, it's
got you.
The goal is really about to give your best at everything you got. Like it feels like you like what is the point of doing that? And for me, it's always like, well, if you're not giving your best, then you're not really trying. And if you're not trying, then like, why do it in the first place? So it's either 100% or not at all. And again, like banking, I didn't feel like a calling on banking, but at least I want to see like, you know what, like as, it's probably hard to say that like that, but like as Christians, you're gonna be looked at differently. Like they're gonna ask you questions like, why are you like so passionate about banking? It's like, I'm not passionate about banking, but you know what, I'm working for the Lord, and like he's kind of like my boss, and he sees everything that I do, like if I'm doing it or not. And right now, especially as being a self-employed and like running my own business, like I'm the boss. I can do whatever I want. I can not work. I can not do anything. But like at the end of the day, like I'm going to sleep. I got to ask myself that question. Like, did I try my best today? And sometimes like right now I'm in the season where, again, the whole thing with Corona, with all the other things that are happening, I got projects that are just like taking forever to finish. I'm working on an online course, and it's been like this massive project, and I got like these 1,000 pieces that I need to somehow put in, and it feels like I'm not actually advancing, and it feels terrible to go to sleep at night because I feel like, oh, I wasn't productive. My trainer like always asked me like, hey, so how was your week? And I was like, like I don't know. I've worked every single day. I tried my best. I gave my best. But it just feels like I didn't do anything. And so those seasons exist and they're okay. But the thing again, it's like, really, are you giving your best? And not like, are you perfect? Are you like the best at one thing? It's like, we're all different. We all got different skills. We all got different skill levels. And in my journey, like if we look at lettering, like I'm there here, and somebody new is coming in, like they're starting here and they're advancing. And like the goal is like, we're all on a journey. We're all making a step, but we're not like, if you look at life kind of like in the lens of an illustration, it's like you're on a treadmill that like goes backwards, and you're trying to like keep up. But like if you're advancing faster, like you're gaining speed and momentum. But if you're just standing still and not doing anything, like you'll fall off the treadmill. And so the great thing there is really to just like, you know what, like just do your best, and that just staying on the treadmill as long as you can. Like it's not a sprint, it's not a short race, it's a long race. And that's why it's like the every single day to keep on going, to keep on giving.
Okay, I love that. That's incredible. I love that you're vulnerable and honest about those seasons where you're hustling, you're working hard, and sometimes you just don't feel like you've got the traction. But as long as you're on there and you're continuing, you show up every day, it's eventually all going to pay off. I just wanted to chat. There's a few questions coming in, and we're going to get to those questions in a minute. And Ansha and Prince are going to ask questions too. But I just want to Stefan won't boast about all the things that he's been doing. So I'm going to ask him. I'm going to draw it out of him. Stefan, just tell us about you've reached somewhat of a prolific environment in terms of what you do. Zurich, was it the Zurich airport in Zurich that commissioned you? Was it Coca-Cola
Yes.
that commissioned you? I can't remember. Maybe talk about some of the prolific work that you've done over the last few years.
Yeah, so I had the crazy opportunity to work with like some of the biggest brands, and especially like kind of like Coca-Cola was one of those. Like I was at an event by Adobe, and I kind of like drew on a Coca-Cola bottle, and that got stolen. And so I was like, oh, sad that it was stolen. And so I did another one and I put it up, and then somehow I saw that the creative director from Coca-Cola like comment on it, and it's like, oh, this is amazing. And so somehow it got like in that realm of Coca-Cola. And that year, I think it was 2017, was like the first year where it's like I got to do like their Christmas invitation for the internal team. And then in 2018, they came back and they reached out and they're like, hey, you know what? We're doing this kindness campaign, and we love like just your platform, you're sharing kindness. And I got to take it back a little further, because when I started out, like, all right, I'm deciding to go with lettering and really pursue that, not just doing it as a hobby. A friend of mine, and Christian, meant really, really well, like nothing against him, but he just said, like, you know what, if you want to work with big brands, you gotta take away all the Christian stuff. Like nobody's gonna hire you if you are connected with religion, if you have like a religious background. And I was like, you know what, that is great advice. And I thought about it, and I was like really thinking about it, like, you know what, at some point I just decided, I cannot actually live with myself saying I'm actually gonna put away the Christian stuff just so I can get bigger jobs. I thought, like, you know what, if I'm getting big jobs, then I should be getting them even with them. And so it's kind of crazy to see that, and whatever he said wasn't true, and that I'm just looking for the right word to, I'm missing that word. Anyway, so to compromise, that's the word that I was looking for. To compromise on your faith and belief is never worth it. You're gonna regret it. And so for me, it's to see, like, now I know kind of like that the people behind the Coca-Cola campaign that I've been in touch with, like, they're all Christians and they love the stuff that I did. Some, like, I've worked with companies that are not Christian at all, but they know exactly that I'm Christian. Like, they're referencing my work, that are Bible quotes and scripture that I've posted, and kind of like what drew Coca-Cola to me at the time was really the positivity that I was sharing. And I like I had to decide at one point, like, what do I want to write about? And the only thing that I felt like, this is true, this is the word of God, like that's the only thing that will hold the test of time. So my posts won't age that badly. And so I felt like really good about that. But the thing is, it's never worth compromising, not for big jobs, not for a client. Like if a client says, like, you know what, we do not like that, we do not like the messaging, like, then just say, like, sorry, please go for someone else, and trust God with, like, let him bring in the money, bring in the clients, bring in the work. And I've been incredibly blessed, like in ways that I could tell you all about it, but it's like, it's crazy just to see, like, again, clients to work with, but yeah, just being able to work with them and to talk with them, and just get to have a seat on board. And because my influence has been able to grow that far over the last years, like, people reach out to me because of that, and they find me on Instagram, on Pinterest, and in all of these different ways. And then of course they go check out my Instagram page, and they see what I post about, which is, again, amazing, and a platform for itself.
I think that in itself is so inspiring, that you have not compromised, and that your messaging, it will stand the test of time, because, like you said, God's word is yes and amen. It's eternal. It does not date. It does not change. And I absolutely love that. I think that's so heroic. And I think just for our creatives to hear that, to go, don't compromise. Whatever God's put on your heart, you stay true to that. Stay true to your faith. It's like we were saying earlier in the beginning, if we constantly stay true to our faith, share our salvation. People actually want that. They need hope. And I think, Stefan, your messaging, the stuff that you put out, always inspires. That's one thing I know, that without fail. It will inspire, it will bring hope, it gives direction. And that's why I think, you know, God's going to continue to use you on platforms that you can't even imagine. And I believe, and I actually do believe, while you were speaking, I actually believe that he's going to open doors for you where people have been possibly anti-gospel, anti-salvation. And I feel like you're going to be that integral part of bringing salvation to people who've never wanted it before. And it's just through your creativity. I just felt that when you were speaking, that the doors that have opened are nothing compared to what still will open, because you're faithful and because you've stayed true to what God has called you to do. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I just thought maybe we have some questions from Prince. Maybe Prince, you can, do you have any questions for Stefan, from one artist to another?
Oh, thank you, Mandy. Yeah, I do have a question for you, Stefan, and thank you again. Welcome to Creative Teamnight. Okay, so as creatives, or artists, we have like those moments where you like hit like a roadblock, like an inspiration roadblock, where you can't, or you don't have like the inspiration to like do or create anything, where you can't even think of like an idea, or let's say I'm on a deadline and I want to finish that project, but you just don't have the drive. So my question to you is like, how do you make sure you still produce like high quality work when you're not operating at your best, per se? Let's say you're working on a deadline and you don't have like an extension, but you have to finish this, but you don't feel like doing it. So how do you make sure you keep that level of quality without operating at like 100%?
I love that question. It's when you talk about creative block, especially now that we're talking about the pandemic that we're hitting. Like, I love, somebody said, like Simon Sinek, great author of Start With Why, he said that if we would be living 1,000 years, we would like have lived through like 5 or 7 pandemics easily, and kind of like it would be kind of like a strong flu or something crazy. And I kind of use that analogy to say, like, if you move into a place where there are hurricanes, a lot of them, like the southern states in the US, on the East Coast, like, that your house will be hit by a hurricane at some point in the year or next year or something like that. And so the way you build your house should reflect that. And the more hurricanes you go through, like, it will rip off your roof and then you'll have to put it back on. And so the same way, you need to address like creative blocks as a way, like, that's a storm, it's gonna hit you. Like, we're all gonna have some, like, depending on where you live. Like, if you live in England, you have a lot of storms. If you live in Cape Town, I don't know how much it rains there, but probably a lot less, not enough. So kind of like where you live depends on that. And that's why like every creative is different in that way. So you're gonna have like storms that will come through that will hit you hard. For me, it's like, for some time, it's been like every single month or every 2 months. Like, I had like for a week or a couple of days, I had those creative blocks and I just like couldn't deal with them. And just to say that as a pro doesn't have creative blocks anymore. Like, a lot of people believe that. And I just have to say, like, no, it's not true. But you know what the difference is between a pro and an amateur is, like, they'll actually sit down no matter what. Like, they're not going to take a day off just because, you feel like it, because you feel, or you just do not feel like it. And those moments are super important, that you actually stick to still going back. And even if it sucks, like, that's one of my favorite quotes, like, create something today, even if it sucks, is to still do it, like, show up every single time. Like, your best on that particular day might not look the way you want it to look. And so that can be frustrating for yourself. But I always believe, like, you're gonna learn, like, you have to try in those seasons, especially in those seasons, you have to be really compassionate with yourself, like, be really okay with dealing with those things, like, not to push yourself too hard, but then also to learn, to use that time to actually learn new skills, learn new ideas, read through stuff. Usually what I can lead back to is, like, you've missed something. You've either not tried to learn how something works, or you've not been trying to inspire yourself. And I see inspiration as feeding yourself. I see the whole creative process as kind of like the digestive system. Like, I always talk about 4 steps. My creative process goes in 4 steps. Like number 1 is inspiration, number 2 is dissection, 3 is creating, and finally 4 is one more step, and that's kind of like the growing part. But if you look at those 3 steps, like inspiration is feeding yourself. Number 2 is dissection, is where you actually use that. Your body will take up all the nutrients and like bring it to your body where it needs. It's kind of like understanding how something works. And then finally, creating is the part where you have to go poop and put it all out. Again, it's like you need, like, if you don't do that, like, you're going to explode at sometimes. You're feeding yourself, you're dissecting, but without an output, like, all these ideas will stick in your head and they will just either evaporate or just like not do anything. But that's why you need kind of like to let it out. Like, if you're a musician, like, write songs, like, write melodies. If you're I don't know, a painter, then paints. If you're a carpenter, then just create those most beautiful things. Like, you look at a table, you understand how it works, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. Let me try to replicate that. And so if at some point you realize that you look back on, like, you're in a block, you're in a situation, in a storm, and you look at like your past weeks or months, and you look and you realize, like, oh, I haven't been feeding myself. Like, I need to feed myself. So you go back, you open books, you read the Bible, you pray, you do that. And then, like, oh, you know, I've done that, but still something doesn't work. Then you actually, like, you have been stale and you haven't been really working up new things. And so that's where, like, you haven't been really trying to understand what you've been taking through. So it's kind of like you've just been eating it, and like without your body getting all the nutrients, so like you've just been putting it out again. And so it's all of these things that are so interconnected that are really important. And every single time that you go through that time, it's really to learn and to use that time to, again, kind of like a hurricane. If a hurricane will pass through, then the next time, you know, like, all right, you know, I got to secure my roof better. I got to put like a lot of nails into every tile and just make sure that everything will hold the next time. And if it doesn't, like, I can fix that the next time, but let me make sure. But if you have built your house on a sand and the storm comes and washes away, and then the next time you build it again on sand, like, you haven't learned anything. So you will have those blocks again and again. So that's my best advice for creative block. But I also recorded a live video on my YouTube channel, which you can rewatch again, exactly on that topic, kind of like touching on all these ideas.
That's incredible, Prince. We're going to come back to you in a minute. I thought maybe we could just answer 1 or 2 questions that are coming through on the line. People are asking about your gear. I think we can get to that maybe in part B. Stick around, because Stefan will maybe talk a bit about his gear and what he uses. So if that's a question for you, hang around. Part B is coming. It's not to be missed. It's going to be incredible. Look, Stefan, there are people asking if you're single. So we're going to talk about that at the outtakes, because we have a moment like at the end of a team night between part A and part B, where we just joke around, and maybe we can ask you a few questions about all those things, all the important things that people need to know, like singleness, girlfriends, all those important things, life-changing things. Somebody's asked, where do you draw the line between doing something even when it sucks for you and you don't feel like it, and when it sucks for you and don't feel like it, and needing rest? So how do you differentiate between needing rest and actually, I don't feel like it? So
there are six excuses that I see, like, are part that we are making excuses. Like, create something today, even if it sucks, is kind of like overcoming your own excuses. And I see 6 of them. One is like perfection, like you're trying to make it perfect, and that's kind of like what's holding you back from making something. So you rather not start anything that will not be perfect. A second one that is a top favorite as well, is like time. Like, I don't have time to create or be creative. I have a full busy schedule, and like, I cannot carve out more than, 30 minutes. And I'm like, well, you got 30 minutes. That's enough to create. But your time, the way you look at time will be different, because if you feel like, I cannot shoot a YouTube video in 30 minutes, it's like, well, you can. It's just not going to be like 10 minutes long. It's just maybe 5 minutes long or 1 minute long. Maybe it's a live stream, who knows? But you got to look at that in times, like, take the time you can. And like, for me, sometimes I like to challenge myself and say, like, I'm just going to draw a whole quote in just 5 minutes. And a lot of people like feel like it's impossible. My chalk walls usually take me up to 4 hours. And sometimes I feel like, oh, you know what? I do not have the time to fit in 4 hours in my day to draw something on a chalk wall. But then I challenged myself to do a 30-minute chalk wall. And it looked impossible, but it actually is doable. And I was shocked myself by actually doing that. There are other excuses, kind of like, I don't have the right tools. Like I cannot take pictures, or I cannot do photo shoots because I do not have the right equipment. I cannot play the guitar because I'm not missing this Fender guitar that has like all the right strings and all that. And so there's all these different excuses, and there are like 3 more that I like to talk about. But there's one excuse that is really important, and that is health. Health is a good excuse not to create. So if you look at yourself, if you haven't slept enough, if you have not been drinking enough or feeding yourself, like if you've only been eating fast food just because you're running out of time, like you need to take time to really take it out.
That would be drinking water, right, Stefan? Not drinking.
Yes.
You said not drinking enough. I'm just clarifying to all our creatives on the line. He's talking about drinking water, H2O.
Yeah.
Just in case,
hydration.
Hydration. Keep going. Sorry,
Exactly.
I just wanted to clarify that.
It's perfect. Yeah, so hydration is a really key important part. It's like all these things, like physical exercise. Like if you're not exercising, if you're just like lazy, like I have those days when I come out of the office, it's late, like well, if I say it's late, like it's 7 p.m. and I just feel like, you know what, I'm just gonna lay in bed and just watch Netflix for the rest. Like that's how I feel. But I realize, like, you know what, I know that running is good for me. It's good for my mental health. It's good for just being active, and I need to exercise. I need to work out to keep my body fit and my mind fit as well. And so lately I've been trying to run more, even when I don't feel like it. But I know, like, I had the worst sore muscles on Saturday from a training that I did. And I hate moving at all. Like I had trouble like sitting down on the toilet because I had to hold down on the bathroom sink just to get down and just be able to do that. And it's just like, it hurts so much. But on Saturday, like that's my Sabbath day. So like one of the things that I also would say, like, and just putting up a parenthesis around Sabbath, like the Sabbath is one of the 10 commandments that we got. And like, whenever I feel like somebody is burning up or like burning out, the first question I will ask them is like, are you actually like taking care of your Sabbath? Like, are you following that one rule? And the answer usually is no. It's like, yeah, like I'm not getting around all of doing everything else. And like, even at church, like I know how hectic church is. I know how much people have to do, but if you cannot take off one full day, like for me, it's like I switch off my normal phone with my other phone. Like I have another phone that has no WhatsApp, no emails, no nothing, just the bare essentials that I need to be connected and just do whatever I need to do. But I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on nothing. And I try to like really have one day where it's like, I can do whatever I want. I do not plan anything. And it's pretty much the best thing ever. And so that's just parenthesis close. It's like Sabbath is so important. And yeah, the other thing is like I ran on that Saturday. I ran 20K. Like I felt like, you know, even if I have sore muscles, I know like I can run that if I really put my mind to it, and it's not going to be bad for me. Like I know I can feel my own body and know my body, and know that like, you know what, even if I have sore muscles, it's going to relax my muscles. It's going to help me go further. And yeah.
That's great to hear. I'm glad, you know, being on the toilet is an important thing. You were just talking about inspiration and digestion. So, you know, also having the muscles to make sure that you can get to the toilet, okay, and is important too. So, yes, Stefan, thank you for that. But Anshi, maybe you want to ask a question as well to Steph?
Awesome. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mandy. And again, Stefan, it's amazing to have you here with us. And there's been such wisdom, and I think everyone is just inspired by what you've already shared with us. So I think from like, if I can ask you this question, it's like obviously with the, you've kind of developed your own signature style with regards to your typography and photography. So I think if you maybe just want to share maybe around the merge of those two passions, because I know you spoke about it earlier about like your passion and like, maybe just there's creatives out there that are like, maybe they have more than one interest or gift or passion or just a talent. And it's so easy to just like keep it in that one line, or I'm an artist, or I like photography. But how do you merge two like creative fields? Because you've done it brilliantly with your photography and your drawing. So maybe just if you want to share or elaborate on that.
I love that. It's that is finding like what should I do and what should I make is one of the questions a lot of people ask me, like, hey, how do I know like what should I pursue? Like I love doing this, and like where do I specialize? Like I'm a jack of all trades. I love doing all these different parts. Find it hard to just focus on one thing. And the cool thing, if you look at my story, like I never saw as specializing as a bottleneck. Like if you look at a bottleneck, people, let me illustrate that with some example here. So if you have kind of like a bottle here, you feel like this is your potential, this is all you can do. And then like putting this out, like specializing is like trying to get it all out through that bottleneck, which feels impossible. But what I've realized is like, actually the story is different. Like you got all these different containers, these bottles, where it's like you're photographing, you're doing lettering, you're doing music, you're doing all these things. The question is in specializing is how do you learn to get that all into one bucket, which is going to be so much bigger and so much greater. And so that is one thing that I've seen happen a lot, is that people just feel compressed and just have like, oh no, I cannot do all these things that I wish I would do. And for me, it was like, how can I merge all of this knowledge? So I knew that lettering was the one thing, and like I want to inspire and encourage people. And so from banking or from even opening a cafe, I learned that I love entrepreneurial things. So I kind of like took that into my business side. And like, how can I be the best businessman? How can I be a great negotiator when it comes to dealing with contracts? Like with Coca-Cola, an example was like, they handed me in a great deal, but I was like, you know what? I learned that I read through the contract, and they said like, hey, you know what? We want to use your art on Times Square, but it wasn't defined in the contract, or when they talked to me about it, it wasn't what they expected from me. And so I kind of like asked for more, even though that I would have done that for free. And so that takes a lot of courage just to say, you know what? I didn't hear anything back from them for 24, 36 hours. And I was like freaking out. Like I just blew the whole thing up. And they came back and was like, you know what? We cannot do 40% more, but we can do 20% more. And so are you okay with that? And I was like, of course, like I would have done it for free, but you need to know that. And so again, so I take that entrepreneurial spirit in, I take in the photography. Was like I'm good at photography. Like I have the equipment, I know how to take pictures, I know how to frame things. And so that helped me in, if you look at my feed, if you look at the posts that I do, I would always like use what I've learned there to do that. And if you're a photographer, but also love graphic design, then your photography is going to be better for example, if you're doing wedding invites or just creative work for agencies. Like usually in an advert, they will have text placed in it. But if you're a photographer that has no idea about graphic design, you will not know that you need to take pictures with space where people can place text in. And kind of like the bundling that into one thing makes you a better photographer, or the other way around, like having a good eye for photography, knowing how you frame your work is going to help you out. And so you can always learn from all these different aspects and things to bundle it into one thing. And so your pot's going to be bigger than your actually small things that you feel like, like if I'm interested in pottery, then the question is like, how can I start lettering with pottery or do a piece that like is involved with pottery? But the goal is always like, how can I use what I've learned to bring it back down and to really put that into a massive container and then really maximize that.
I honestly, I've just like, you've blown my mind, because I feel like so often we've been sold this lie that we have to master, you're jack of all trades, but master of none. But what if you could master all of those things into one thing? Like you're just saying, funnel it all in. I love that. That is so inspiring. But people are going crazy because of your transition as to how you quickly switched over and did all these things. So I'm going to ask you to do something. I wonder, this is just, we didn't practice this, guys. This is just, I'm just going to go for gold. Stefan, at the beginning of the year, we spoke on a creative team who is authentic. So we spoke on authenticity. I wonder if you could take that word authentic or authenticity, whatever you want to do, authentic maybe, and just quickly, just draw it quickly, even if it takes you 10 minutes. Like, we are wanting to see how you do this because our team just went nuts. Okay, guys, there it is, giving the people what they want. Stefan Kunz.
So
he's
authentic.
Authentic, yeah, and talk us through it, or don't talk us through it. Do whatever you want.
All right. So easiest way is really to draw out like a baseline, and the second line, kind of like parallel to the first line, is called like the baseline, the X height. Then you would have a ascender and descender. So it's kind of like where if you have an A, it would be probably just like that. But if you have a P, it will go all the way down. The second step is to actually to start drawing that in. And one of the first lessons I've never learned, like I'd never learned lettering from videos. Like I'm self-taught as well. And one thing that I had to learn is to find out that like the downstrokes are thick and the upstrokes are thin. And my camera just went off, which means that we've passed 30 minutes again. Or did it went off? Authentic. Now I'm just gonna have to make sure that I'm writing it right. One fun fact about me is that actually in school, in a what is it called? Dictation. Is it called a dictation? Like where you had to write 5 sentences that the teacher like told you about. I made 35 mistakes, spelling mistakes. And the teacher came back to me and just said like, you know, it's actually pretty amazing that you could do so many mistakes because there are just so few words. And so I'm actually going to give you a little star because you did so well on making so many mistakes. So here we go. Is that written right? Authentic. No, it's totally wrong. Let's do it again. Isn't it authentic? That's authentic. So just imagine those lines. And there we go. So that's
okay.
that's
That
just
is
calligraphy
epic.
more than
Now,
it is lettering.
So what I want you to do quickly is talk about the base. What did you said a whole lot of things there that like I didn't know what you were talking about. So
all right.
The base, the top, the whatever's. Let's explain that for us very quickly.
So the baseline is pretty much the line that you draw on. You start your letters off and so on. The X height is kind of like, it's called X height because the X would actually fit right in. And so that would be kind of like here. And then the ascender, that is kind of like, because those letters have ascender, so the T goes higher up, and that is like a third line. And if you had like a P that would go down here, then that would be the descender line. And so they're all parallel to each other. And that's the easiest way to kind of like see that. And then you have the slant line, which is kind of the angle that you're drawing your letters. And so cursive letters usually are on a little slant. And then again, the downstrokes, the strokes that goes down are thick and the upstrokes are thin. And so that's why you usually will pull up lighter and then downstroke thick. And so that's where you apply the pressure and go up. And so if you want to exercise that with markers, you can do that and then kind of like start to combine them. But that's kind of like, this is more calligraphy than it is lettering. So I'm actually not really drawing like this. So when I draw something, it's usually more like I'll draw an A, kind of like this, like normal. And then we'll try to like give it the weight that I want. Like say, like I want to draw it out thin, thick here, maybe just a tiny little bend on the top, and then bring it back in here. And and then I'm going to color out the rest of the letter. And so that's the difference between lettering and calligraphy, is that calligraphy is where you will actually use just one stroke, like you'll add the pressure by pressing, and lettering is more like you draw the letter. You will kind of like create all these lines and kind of like fill it out that way.
That's incredible. Amazing. Okay, so I don't know if we had another question, actually. I'm going to ask you this last one, and then maybe I know that we're going to go into our part Bs. If there are any more questions, Cass, maybe just post them here in the panelists box so I can see them. But one of the questions is, did you deal with any feelings of inadequacy or imposter syndrome in pursuing your solo career?
Ooh, that is a good question. So if I've taken the Enneagram test, and through that Enneagram test, I'm an 8, and I don't know if a lot of people know what an 8 actually means, but it's like a challenger. So 8s usually have a tendency to just believe in themselves and know kind of like who they are, and feel that they're great at what they do, and that can come across very arrogant. But where I see like it's a positive sign of like, you know, I'm never afraid of really going up on stage or talking or doing anything, because I just feel confident in what I do. But the imposter syndrome will still kick in whenever I feel like, you know what, there's like when I work for Coca-Cola, like I thought like, you know, I believe myself that I could work for Coca-Cola, or have like even a piece of my work on Times Square, but like I thought it would maybe happen in like 2025 or something, like further away. But that it happened like in 2018 was just like mind blowing for me, because like, one, I could have never imagined that. Two, like it put me in a realm with other artists, and like even that, sometimes when I'm speaking at a design conference, I just realized like, you know, I actually have no clue what I'm talking about, because like I've been self-taught. I've been teaching workshops, and I taught a workshop, and then right after that, I went back into a room to another person's workshop, who actually created this book. Like that's just came out, and like he designed the Jimmy Kimmel logo that you'll see on his show, like right here. Like even Jimmy Kimmel wrote the foreword for his book, and so this guy was teaching there too, and I sat in his class, and I was just like realizing in just 5 minutes that I knew nothing about what he was teaching, and I was like realizing like, okay, there's so much still to learn. But instead of seeing that as inadequacy or just like seeing bad about myself, I see like, oh, you know, there's so much potential. Like I can still learn so much. There's still so much to improve. And even when I charge the rates that I charge, like on one hand, I feel like, you know, I totally deserve it. But at the second, on same page, like I know that I charge sometimes more than double than what all the other artists that are so much better than me will charge. But I feel like, you know, I will pretty much negotiate it in a different way. And I know that I'm a great businessman. And so that kind of like balances it. But still, yeah, you always will have that. And if you're other Enneagram and you feel like this is something that you really struggle with, and especially when you are charging for something. So this is just for any artist or person who is charging other people for their work. Don't see it as I have that value. Just ask yourself, like, is somebody willing to pay that price? Like a painting for 3 million will never have that value. Like you could never will go up to that. But like there's someone in the world that is ready to pay $3 million for Picasso, for having that work put up. Or like a Banksy, like as soon as Banksy pulled that prank on that one art piece that was going down and like shredded, but stopped, like it just doubled the value. Like somebody just saw that and was like, this is amazing. I want to pay for that even more money. And you got to imagine like Banksy, like just imagine like, you know, the whole thing costs us maybe like $200 to make, to break and all that. And like now it's even shredded, like there's no value in it, but like somebody saw the value in it. And that kind of like, we can relate that to kind of like the gospel is like, Jesus saw the value in you to go on the cross for you and die for you. And so if you're that valuable, like, again, he saw that value in you. So you're valuable in that sense, you're a masterpiece. And the good thing, again, if we bring it back to art and charging, is like, you just got to find the right person to pay for that. And maybe that's not someone you know, maybe you got to look for it. And sometimes for me, it's like, I do not find the clients always, but some people will pay for that and pay so well that I, again, can be generous and build the kingdom of God. And then you can see like companies like Coca-Cola will actually build the kingdom of God because you can use that money to finance your work and other people's work.
That is incredible, Stefan. I couldn't find my mute button there for a second, but honestly, you have inspired us all. I think we're going to. Why don't we all say a massive thank you to Stefan? If you're on YouTube and you're chatting, just give him a shout out. Why don't you go follow him as well? But he's going to continue to stay with us. We're going to jump into our part B. So if you're keen to stay on, part B is going to happen here, if I'm correct. Is that correct, Ansha? I think we're staying on this section for part B. So yeah, stay with us if you want to be part of the part B and watch. It's going to be incredible. But we're going to have a bit of banter while everyone goes into their next part B. But can I just say, Stefan, thank you so much for speaking to us. I know that it's, we honor you for your time and just giving out. I know that you're super generous, again, with your finances, with your words, with your time. And we do really appreciate it. And thank you for inspiring us and our team over this season. We value you. We love you. So, hey, can jump on. We're going to have a few of our friends jumping on as well, just chatting to anyone. If you don't have your part B breakouts, I think you can find them here. Cass is going to jump on. Polo's going to jump on with us. Prince is here. Ansha's here. Ashley's here. We're all here. And we're going to have a bit of a chat. I'm going to check out the chats happening on YouTube very quickly. But hey, let's talk about Stefan Kunz's. Cass, what do you think? The girl's asking if he's single. What is happening right now?
Listen, all I'm going to say is there was a lot of chat happening on the chat about Stefan's relationship status. So I don't know if we can maybe, it's for the people. They want to know. The people want to know.
So is that when I have to jump in and explain myself?
If you feel comfortable,
yeah,
Stefan.
Yeah.
If you don't, no.
No, I'm single. I'm still single.
Okay, guys, did you hear that? He is single. Someone has just said very inspiring. I'm not sure if that comment was to the fact that you're single, or if we're just I'm getting the lateness of questions. Some people are saying no, you don't have to answer that. So Steph, tell us, what do you look like? What do you look for in a woman? Let's just go there. Let's see if we can refine this a little bit.
It's a good question. Well, as an artist, I will say looks are attractive, are necessary, but the thing is usually that's how they come in, but then you need to get to know them. They need to have the right heart, and the most important thing is really their relationship with God. And but that means as well that my relationship with God is equally as important, and the goal is that I feel like both have the same drive, have the same desire to build a kingdom in the same way, and are pulling on the same string. And so it's kind of like becomes a pushing each other forward and helping each other get further and building up the kingdom. Okay,
that is epic. That is very good. People are asking, how are you single though? Because they can't understand it. They can't fathom it. We've got many people just like not understanding the fact that you are single at the moment. It's a little bit disturbing. I feel like they've not heard anything else about tonight but that you're single. So we're glad that you are looking for somebody who has got that same vision. That is very important. Another question we have for you is what? Oh, I'm seeing a few of the questions coming through now, but they're coming through late. In terms of your kind of downtime, what would you say are the things that you do for fun?
See, this is one thing that I have a huge problem with. It's knowing what to do as a hobby. Like I don't have any hobbies more because kind of like I've turned everything, like I funneled everything into this one thing. So it's kind of like all tickles down to just being an artist and full-time worker in that area. But the good thing is also like I'm trying to figure that out more. And the lockdown was actually very interesting to learn a lot about myself, because lockdown here in Switzerland wasn't as strict, but at the same time, like all my housemates kind of like moved out at the same time, so they were away, so I was alone there, and like I had to tell my employees to kind of like work from home, and somehow like because I actually travel a lot, so I've never been in one place for more than like 2 months at a time. In the past 4 years. And so like always been on the road, like meeting new people. And like usually when I travel, I'll get to talk to a lot of amazing people and like have that social interaction, like a crazy social interaction. And so to calm down, I kind of like balance it out. Like in the office, I get to have like quiet time. But now being home for over 3 months, like has been so crazy. Like again, at the beginning of the year, I was in India, I was in the Philippines.
Like this was going to be really prolific for our team, and then all of this stuff is going down. I feel like the anime is coming natural.
Maybe Stefan should just draw. You can just draw. Like
yeah, just start drawing. I reckon let's go for that. Go for your camera. Just go silence is golden or something. When the audio is gone, make up something awesome. When the audio is gone, the art starts singing.
Man, you can speak and you can just draw whatever you're saying, your words.
The audio is back.
It's back.
I'm good.
It's back.
I don't need to draw.
No, Stefan is going to draw for us, guys. But before we do, I just have Polo here. Polo is one of I love Polo because when I go up to Pretoria, I feel like Polo makes me laugh. She just makes me laugh all the time. Polo, why are you on mute? Can you just unmute yourself?
Okay, I'm here.
Good. I want you to tell us a story. Tell us about the story. Tell us about your stories, because Polo's got so many stories. We once gave out what was it? We gave out prizes, awards for the creatives who'd had the biggest failure. And she won the prize because she told us a story about how she was leading worship, and she had a saliva challenge. A drool challenge, not a draw challenge, a drool challenge. You want to tell us about that, Polo?
I feel like, Mandy, you're really prying on one of my most traumatic. I wanted to say the most traumatic, but I have so many traumatizing experiences. that this is like, I think this is like part of maybe the top 20 moments of my life. But, you know, since you put me on the spot, I have to tell everybody. So obviously people know me. I'm a very, you know, passionate worship leader. Like I get really into it. And so when I get very excited about anything, I drool, like just salivate, just it doesn't stay inside my mouth. It just has to escape.
Wow.
And so, this one faithful Sunday, it was a beautiful day. It was great. You know, I looked cute. Everybody looked great. You know, worship was on fire. Like it was just everything was happening. Everything was happening. And so I'm singing, and because I'm really excited, some saliva. I don't know how I feel about Stefan drawing while I'm telling this terribly embarrassing story. But I was really excited, and then the saliva it escaped my mouth. And so usually when that happens, it like obviously the assumption is that it would land on someone, you know, like someone else would run into my saliva. But I was too quick. I was too quick for it, and so it came out one end, and then I turned around and it met me on the other side of my face. And I can't even describe what it felt like. And, you know, obviously, like, you know, when anyone, like, you find something that's not supposed to be on your face, the instant reaction is to be like, oh my gosh, what was that? You know, and I stopped and I was like, oh my gosh, that's saliva. But everyone thought I was just like moved by the Spirit. And so I was like, woo, so good.
Yeah.
Praise
Yes,
Jesus.
so good. So good.
You know,
look,
and so
I feel like
those
that's one of like many stories. I feel like we need to have like a sequel every week.
I mean, I can give you one right now, just off the top of my head.
Okay, you hold on to that story because I want to hear it. I just want Stefan to quickly go back to South Africa because I felt like he was drawing something there for us, and I'm like, yes, South Africa, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm drawing it again just because practice makes perfect. And
yeah, I love that about him. I love that he goes for, like, if he's not happy with it, he does it again. That's awesome. It's pretty much like polo, like if your saliva doesn't
I knew you were going to say something.
So yeah, this is
I was going to say
pretty much the same thing as saliva.
Yeah, it's like the most accurate comparison ever. Just keep trying again. Just keep trying.
Just like you're never gonna hit your face. You're never gonna hit your face again if you do not try and like spit on yourself. It's actually hard. I haven't tried it yet, but I'll probably will when I go running and see if I can spit on myself. Like
we're not suggesting like, you try it.
We'll compare notes like afterwards and see how well we do. Like I'm sure like there's a secret on how you do it and kind of like the right words, singing like the right lyrics, and then just like and then have like the right momentum to come back and like hit yourself with a.
How many people can actually say that? Like, I don't know anyone else who's experienced it. That's why I'm like, I feel so alone in this. It's not like I can be like, I totally relate to you. You know, it's like no one else
totally
is
check.
Saliva.
You should totally check the World Guinness Record book to see if there's actually a record of like, maybe so first off, you have hit one side. Like the next part would be to actually hit both sides, like to be able to come back and forth, kind of like a double tap.
That you're onto something. I think that's actually revolution. I could become famous. Is this how I'm going to become famous?
This is how people become TikTok famous.
Oh my gosh. I'm so ready for this. I feel like, you know, before, isn't it just like God to use our weaknesses as strengths? Come on.
There's a message right there, Polo. I feel inspired already.
That's the word for someone, guys. If you thought saliva was against you, it's for you.
Right. So see, now you got to ask yourself again, if take my analogy, like how can you use saliva and like put it into that one big thing and like make it part of your design?
It's a good question, Polo. I feel like Stefan's onto something. He's giving you clear direction here. It's good.
He really is.
He is.
I'm so thankful. All I'm saying is that after this, the story is now it's copyright. Please, no pictures. Nobody like follow me or like DM me, like, just because I feel like my fame is on the way.
There will be a lot of illustrations. I hope that a lot of people will start illustrating that moment and kind of like put it on pictures, just so people can really experience that again. Like, it's necessary in that sense to really have that full experience. Like, you had that, and you like, it changed you, and so that's why we definitely need that as well.
It definitely changed my skin. It was extra moist after that. Like, it was just wild. I was like, wow, is this a new moisturizer? Like,
and people always ask, like, why is your skin glowing that much? And you're like, well, you know, the secret is actually really hidden. It's the saliva.
It's not saliva, everybody. Just so everyone to know, not saliva. Because I feel like now, because the thing is, I know what saliva smells like, and so I think everyone is like, anytime they hug me or like touch me, they're gonna be like, I don't trust you, you know? Because some people like, okay, no jokes aside, and like saliva aside, my skin is actually like really soft. Like, it's like odd sometimes. Like, I don't have hair on my arm.
Right.
I don't know why I showed you my forearm, as if you could see it. Lol. But I have and so like anytime someone touches me, like, oh my gosh, your skin is so soft. And now I feel like after this whole conversation, people are just gonna be extra, you know, because they're gonna be like, what did she use to moisturize, you know? But
you know, I bet more that they're gonna ask, like, hey, can we get your saliva in bottles and kind of like have skincare products out of that? Like, you know, you're gonna have like the new like Kylie Jenner skincare products series that you'll have and see like with Polo saliva in it, and it's gonna be like the revolutionary thing. Like,
you're speaking to my heart. All I've ever
it.
wanted to be is a Kardashian. Like, guys, I'm famous. It's official.
You're gonna be on Keeping Up with Kardashians because they are gonna try to keep up with that saliva and see like, hey, how can we get more? How can we extract more?
This is the best day of my life. I feel like it's Christmas. Is it Christmas? Can someone tell me what day it is? Like, I'm so happy right now.
It's been
we're
so good.
halfway through.
It's been so good to have you with us. I feel like you need to come join us every week. But hey, I reckon we're going to go to our part Bs right now. I am super excited. Stay on the line with us. Stefan Kunz is going for gold. And I think, Ansha, you're taking it away with part B. But hey, love it. Someone is saying here, Stefan, that Stefan is the biggest hype guy, and I love it. You are awesome. You make everyone feel like a winner, and we love you. So take it away, part B. I can't wait.
I got to take away part B now.
Awesome.
I feel like there's some part missing.
No, that's awesome. Thanks, Steph. Thanks, Mant. Is everyone ready for awesome part B? I'm so excited to see what's coming up next. And I know we've got Ash and Prince still here. And I think, just on some practical things, I know that there's been some questions that came through on the chat as well. And I think maybe if you can just give us like, where do you start? Like, I know obviously you've spoken about it, like, you don't need the right tools, you don't need the right equipment, like, you don't have to make all those excuses. But like, if you're a beginner, if you are literally at home, like, where would you start? Because as I saw those white pages, I already freaked out. I think white paper freaks me out, especially like blank. I'm like, I don't know where to start, like, and I'm scared that I'm going to make a mistake. And I love like how you are like, you said, no, I'm doing it again and again. So I think, maybe just tell us a little bit about the process, like how you go about, like, and just start like with the practical stuff.
Yeah, well, the fear of the blank page. So if I cut back to this, like if I see this, like I'm totally freaking out. Like it looks like I got my cool, and it's like, oh, you know what? Like I'm just gonna do it. Like I can perform, like that's not a problem, but actually to create a piece that I want to share, that I want to put out, like that is a whole different story. And so I usually will freak out for every single piece that I start off with. And I overthink things all the time in my head. And so that's a natural thing. So there are some people that are just born with like oh, you know what, like I'm just going to start, and it may look like it, but I'm not one of those people. So what I've learned is it's kind of like you got to get yourself ready to do stuff. And one of the things that I tried at the beginning of this year was kind of like to trick my mind into doing things. So ending last year, just around like New Year's, a friend of mine and I were like, he's training for a triathlon. And so he's like super in the sport of mind and like running every time that he get. And one of the things he did was, while we were in France, was like getting up early in the morning and go for a run before we had breakfast or anything. And I just like the thought of getting up in the cold, like in the dark of night, not having any food, and then going for a run was like the worst thing ever. And I can see here that people are just like, nope, this is not me. But so this is kind of like how I feel about creating sometimes. It's like has exactly the same impact. And so after like he kind of like motivated me, got me out, like, all right, like I just have to do that. But as soon as I was at home again, back in the warm bed, waking up, like I had my alarm set at 6 a.m. in the morning, and like winter night, like I was in my warm bed under my blanket, and I felt like just like, oh, you know, I could stay here for another hour. Like nobody would care. Like I'm my own boss. Like do not tell me what I need to do. But I felt like, you know, getting out was the hardest thing, because I was imagining me running outside in the cold. So I had to break it down into all these steps. And I'm using the running analogy, and I'll turn that into creative in a second. But for me, it was like I had to prepare to put out my jogging stuff outside. And so all I had to do when I was getting outside of the bed was I just had to put on my running gear. So that was like pants and t-shirt and like a sweater. And my camera will turn back on in just a second. The next thing was to actually, like, I just told myself, like, you know, I just got to put on my running shoes now. Like, who cares? Like, I can still go to bed after I've put on the running shoes. And so I always like tried to trick my brain into doing like small little steps. And so the next thing I was like putting on my running shoes, and I like, all right, I just need to go outside. Like, I don't have to run. Like, I can go back up. If it's too cold, I can just go back up. And so I went down and I went out, and I said, like, all right, like, let's just run a couple of, like, let's get into the flow and let's run. And then after a while, I was like in the flow, I was running and I felt great. And I knew kind of like, this feels great. And everybody who does that will know, like, actually when you're running, when you're outside, even if it's freezing, like, you'll feel great. Like it will create those endorphins and those good feelings. And so it will feel great. And so with drawing and creativity, for me, it's kind of like, you know, like if I have to come back to my desk the next morning and to sit down to prepare all my desk, get all my equipment, like get paper and all that stuff, think of a quote that I want to write. I tell you, it's like too many decisions I have to make that are just crazy. And so for sometimes, and I don't do that every time, but to trick my brain, if I really want to be productive again, one thing I will do is, like, on the night, I will actually clear out my desk, like get everything ready, and then just put on the one piece of paper that I want to write down a quote, like create something today, and just have something like that I already chose, and then put that on the desk, and have my pen ready, the pen that I want to use to draw, and then I just start with that on the next morning, because then I come back to the office, I sit down, everything is already ready, and all I got to do is like to actually start drawing. And the same way, like, I needed to put out my running clothes on my bed ready for me when I get up to actually start running. That is so essential. And so if you're playing a guitar or an instrument, then like put your guitar out, put out the song that you want to play, or if you're writing songs, like the best way, like I heard that from writers, is like, if you're a writer, don't actually use a blank page, like use an old page that you've already written and kind of rework on rewriting those sentences, kind of like transforming those words. And then as soon as you're like in the flow, like your brain is already active, kind of like when you're running, then you can switch to a blank page, because then you're already in the flow, and like it will just flow from there. And so that is extremely important to do that. And so for me, that was learning that. And for anyone who's listening, who's looking at that, like, it's the same thing. It's like, you got to get into the flow, find your flow. And sometimes it just means like, give yourself, like, I just gotta have to do that for 5 minutes. And like, usually like increments of 5 or 15, like the best increments are 30 minutes. Like just tell yourself like for 30 minutes, I'm going to like stick to that. I'm just going to write and trick yourself into doing something. And for me, sometimes it's like doodling something. And then as soon as I've already drawn a couple of lines, like it's easy to flow in the next state.
Okay, that is so insightful. Wow. Thank you so much for that. I think there's a question that comes through. Maybe we can look at that. And then Ash, after that, if you maybe want to throw something at Stefan as well. But Stefan, the question here was, do your client brief ensure that you don't repeat the same styles over and over between projects, or do you find that you repeat it anyway?
So when it comes to client briefs, usually clients are, I will say that in the most respective way, is that clients will only think as far as what they see. So they will only hire you for the things they see. They're rarely going to think outside of what you could potentially do, because that's a risk that they don't want to take. They want to hire someone, they know that that person will get the job done. And then usually they will send you references and work that you want to do. And so for me, the best way for me to improve and to keep on getting better is to actually just work on my own stuff. So my Instagram actually was a big, massive help to grow, not just for my following, but like I had the desire to grow my following. And to do that, like I had to get better at my art. And to get better at my art, like I had to improve and do all that thing. And that in return helped me to get better, like gain more following and grow on that platform. And I had to repeat that often and often, like post daily, try to post once a day and stuff like that. And so that helped me to really up my game all the time. And for the next part, it's really important is to just see like clients will come back and then you often will repeat old stuff that you've already done, not go too far out. Sometimes clients will be like challenging you. Like, for example, I had like a client, but she was an artist who ran a business, and she said like, like I want you to do a lenticular mural. And I'm like, awesome, I'll do it. What is it? And she's like, well, it's a mural where you can see from both sides like a different image. So if you walk from the left to the right, then you'll see in a different image, and you walk from the right to the left. And so like on one way you would see like use your words, and on the other way was, what was the first one that I did? Use your words and say something. And so that's kind of like we had those two things that we wanted to put in. And so like I had to imagine like, how will I actually do that? Like I have to design 2 pieces, create those 2, and do all that stuff. And so that's where like I get challenged, and I love to get challenged. But often enough, like clients will not be very imaginative, like will only book you for the things you do. So that's why you need to push yourself all the time, get better, improve your skills to the best of your ability. And always like I introduced chalk because I need that diversity, like find like different tools to work with. People always love to ask me like, hey, what's your favorite tool to work with? I'm like, whatever you give me, put in my hand, like I need the diversity. And so I'll draw with like letters and words on chalk on the wall. I'll do it on paper. I'll do it on my iPad. I'll do it on like a graffiti. I'll run it out on a GPS app, on a running app, just to write something. Like there's like creativity is endless and boundless.
Wow, that is awesome. I was actually going to ask you, what is your favorite medium, or like, but then you kind of just like, what is, or the favorite thing that you like to draw with? So
already answered that.
Yeah, amazing.
Awesome. Ash,
question my side. Yes, I do, Anj. Okay, so yeah, I think you just answered like 2 of the questions that I was going to ask in that little answer over there, so that was amazing. But I think how do you almost constantly find inspiration for coming up with maybe new styles, or in your case maybe new lettering, new fonts, new things like that? How do you constantly do that? Because I feel like a lot of the time we master one thing and we finish the one thing, and it's such a feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment, and we're like, yes, like we did it, it looks amazing, we love it ourselves as the artist. But then almost, I think it's that thing of starting something new again that can seem really daunting. But how do you like find inspiration to go into the new thing, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. One of the courses that I'm releasing that I've been working on is like Building Letters 101. That's how I like teach a practical stuff, and like I go through those 4 phases, the creative phases, is like 1, inspiration, 2, like dissection, like dissecting a letter, understanding how it works, kind of like a watch that you like you take apart a watch and you look at the inner things and like how all the pieces like fit together, and like why does the second thing like move faster than the minute and the hour. And so kind of like understanding how it works. And same thing applies to letters, like being strong at like dissecting all of these things and then creating, like coming up with all these new things. One thing that I would like to address is mostly that a lot of people, when they start out, they kind of like want to find their voice and their style way too fast, and they kind of like settle on that too early. Like when I hear, like I have a friend who's an artist too, a painter, and he like said to me, like, I found my style and I know my voice now, and like I'm happy. And so I'm like, well, you've just been doing this like for a year or two. Like there's no way that you have found your voice and that you're just going to do that. Like every painter, like it's a body of work that you need to create until you find that. And usually through your body of work, that it's all these different elements that you will, like your style will always shine through everything you do, like even if you do a lot of different things. But for me, it's like when you're starting out, like for the first, I don't know, 10, 15 years, like you got to try out, because as soon as you start to say like, this is my style and I'm going to try to do that, like you're going to become really old really fast, because you're just not trying to learn new things, not trying to improve your style, not like as soon as you're content, like your hunger like is not there anymore. Like if you fed yourself and you're just like, like I'm full, I don't need anything anymore, then you're just going to stop and you're not going to eat anything anymore. And so that is massively important, is to always stay hungry and to keep going.
Amazing. Stefan, we've got some requests here on like obviously different fonts and different types. So do you mind like drawing a few of the different styles, or just a few of the different fonts or things that you are
Sure.
Yeah, because if you look at your designs and things, it's incredible, and it's so different, like with the fonts and with the designs and things. So just for people to kind of see the diversity, that will be awesome.
Let me actually just quickly come back. So this is a 5-hour live stream piece that I did, and that kind of like shows you all the different fonts used in this one single piece. And you can see like there's like cursive, like just bold, sans serif letters, serif letters here, slap serifs. Like they all got names mostly, but then there's just like a whole combination of like different elements, different styles, a lot of like small details that are added into it to really make it pop and to really make it like stand out. And so all of that is something that's really important, is to know like you got to start somewhere and you got to play around, and like it may look like I'm nailing all of these styles, but like I'm just trying to like keep up and like try new things, really improve that, and really get the most out of it as possible as I can. And from every single piece that I try, like usually they're not perfect when I try them, but as I go on, like I've practiced this a lot. Like I can show you during the 100-day creative challenge that I talked about. Let me grab my sketchbooks. I was reading like the Bible every single day, and through that was doing like all these lettering pieces, and I just need to find the right sketchbook because there are many different ones and I still can't find the right one. There we go. There's one. Yeah, that's the one. So this one here. So it's through the 100-day creative challenge, we also had like to read through the whole 4 gospels. And so kind of like here, I started like writing out these different elements and kind of like trying out new styles over and over again. And so this is kind of like how I grew as an artist, by trying out different styles and like totally being okay like to fail at it. And I also kind of like, this is kind of the trick that I do with myself, is like, all right, I'm going to fail, but if I fail, like I'm at least going to try to put it in a way or frame it in a way that I can actually use it, that it will still look presentable. And so the thing about it is, because it's filled with so many different styles and because there are so many different elements, you're not actually going to see the small mistakes. But if I draw one single word, like you're going to see those mistakes. And so I had the pleasure of practicing here through the whole page and trying all these different things while reading my Bible, like connecting different elements, like doing my devotional time, reading the Bible, being able to be creative, mixing all these different things in it. And then also creating like content for Instagram, which is also, again, like you can see those videos that I draw the whole thing. And so you're never going to see those details. And you're never going to see all the spelling mistakes that I've made in it that I just like left in, because I know, like, you're not going to look at the exact details, and that's okay. Like, I do not have to make everything perfect. And so I'll always will find something that is just not right. And you can see, like, this is the whole book. And so there's a lot of practice. Like, every single page is about an hour at least. And so you can see, like, there's hours and hours and hours of practice that went into that, and just being okay with, with not being perfect, with not being good at one thing, but just like, keep going, keep building, keep doing.
Okay, that is like incredible. It is blowing my mind. I'm like, wow. That is awesome. But I think even like when you were showing it, I love it, like, because I think often we think of just like a word, or you think of just like an image. And I love the fact that with like what you are doing, it becomes the art piece. It becomes something that actually people stop and look at, or like I would hang that up on against my wall. Or so I love the fact that like how you take like things that are normal and you create it into this beautiful like art piece or artwork, or like even with your designs as well. I just love how you are playing with words and how you don't keep the structure of it. Like, I think so often we are scared to break out of like the normal. And so I just like just the risks that you are taking. And I think, I mean, you've spoken about it before, but definitely in your work, like you can see that there is like, you love to take risks. You love to like think of new ways and create new avenues for designers and kind of leading it. And so just really thank you for inspiring us as creatives. And I love that you, like I think Ash also asked it and you spoke about it earlier, but just where you draw your inspiration from. Like, I love how it's always going back to the word of God, like, and so that is so awesome. That is really, really amazing. So thank you. I think, Prince, do you want to maybe throw something at Stefan from, again, like, because there's another awesome artist.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. The question I have for you is like, when you first started out, to, let's say, take on typography and photography, as a career, what's the one thing you'd wish you'd like done differently when you started out? Or let's say you had a time machine and you have one thing to change when you started out, what would be that one thing you tell yourself, change this and do that?
So the one thing that was holding me back from actually pursuing lettering or graphic design as a career, a reason why I was like I kept lettering in a friend zone in that sense, was really because I was pricing my things wrong. Like, I knew how to ask for money, but the thing is, what I was doing was like I was setting up the expectation, like, as only we're going to be done, like, I'm going to create a logo for you and the work's going to be done when you're happy with it. And I didn't have like a clause in it that said like, I'm going to give you, like, I'm going to, like, right now it's really straightforward. It's like, I'm going to draw 3 sketches. I'm going to refine those sketches. I'm going to give you 2 final sketches, and then finally going to finalize one piece. And so I have like a clear structure of like how the process is, and I can still price it not hourly, but like on a whole budget. And that all in all really helps to really structure that really, really well. without then having to, otherwise you're going to work yourself to death to like please a client, because you're only going to get paid when you're going to have like when the client is pleased, because otherwise he's just going to come back. And also structuring that has helped like save ton of time. Like the client has to get like better at telling you what they need. And I've seen that even in church. Like one of the things that I did as a designer with my leaders and with my pastors, like even knowing like to honor them is a great thing, but like I needed to tell them, you know what, like I'm not gonna do anything for you unless you provide me all the clear information, all the details that I need to know to start my work, because as a volunteer, this is my free time, my spare time that I'm giving you guys, and I need to really make the most of that time. And so if you are unprecise with what you want and you're going to make changes along the way, I'm not going to be able to do that, and then we can just end off here. And that helps them to be better communicators in the way they communicate. Like, how am I supposed to do that? And so, like, communication goes both ways, and it's usually like I've seen that in my experience. Like, leaders are very unclear of what they want, of what they need, and so sometimes that is holding our creatives back. And we need to tell them that we need to have that clarity to help us drive that better, because if we like, we all gonna save a lot more time if we just work better and faster than just like, you know, like I want a cool Siri design, or like for the next for the next team night, I want to have this logo and this kind of style. And it's like, this is not clear. Like if I would charge you, like you would be very clear about what you need, because you, like, time is money, and even if you're not getting paid for that and you're volunteering your time, like your time is still valuable. And so both ways, if you're a leader, you need to be clear. If you're a volunteer, then you got to ask that clarity and value your own time. Yeah.
Awesome. That was so good. Well, I hate to say this, but we would need to say goodbye to you. So, but first of all, just from Hillsong Africa, we just want to say thank you so much for joining, or for letting us be part of your just a glimpse of your world and what's happening. And I really feel like you've like imparted into our team like skill. You gave us new motivation. You breathed new life over us as a team. And I think not only are we inspired and in awe, but we are actually, I think we are motivated, and we are we are ready for the next season of creativity and how that's going to look for us. So thank you for your time, for your generosity, and know you are part of this family now, so you can join in anytime. And we pray and we just believe that for you as well, with your career and with everything ahead, that God's anointing and his favor and his blessing will be upon you as well, and that you will just continue to bless people with the gift and with the talents that God has given you. So thank you so much for your time. I think you are going to have so many more followers and people joining into your workshops. So we're cheering you on, and know that we are one of your greatest cheerleaders. So, but thank you for an awesome night with you, Stefan. It was so good to get to know you, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to get to share what I've learned, and to just be a part of your journey, and hope to see you guys all soon again.
Awesome. Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.